of the Christian story and how it shapes Western civilization. So we have equality, compassion, consent, which that one was a interesting one for me. Enlightenment, science, freedom, and progress. Why these 7? I mean, were there more, or did you just figure? I mean, how did you come up with these 7?
There was a point at which I had 6, and then I thought, you can't just have 6, you got to have 7. You know,
you have to be biblical.
You gotta be biblical. It'd be like saying I've sailed the 6 seas. No, you got one more to go. One more to go. Actually, I am not only taking you through seven different values, I'm also taking you through 7 different epochs. So in one sense, equality maps onto the Old Testament, compassion maps onto the New Testament, consent maps onto the early church, enlightenment maps onto the medieval period, science maps onto the scientific revolution, freedom maps onto abolition, and progress maps onto the 20th century and beyond. And so in one sense, I'm giving you a history lesson from Genesis to George Floyd. In another sense, I'm kind of masking that. I'm kind of putting as you do with your dog, you put the pill into the mincemeat. And instead of telling you that I'm giving you a history lesson, which I kind of am, I'm taking you through these 7 moral intuitions that you already have, but that you haven't examined, and trying to go through that. Yeah, I could have chosen some more. For instance, there was a chapter on kind of heroism and the stories that we tell. That was one of my chapters that ended up on the cutting room floor, because you can't have 8 either. That's wrong. You gotta have 7.
Were you going to use Joseph Campbell?
He was mentioned. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that whole monomyth stuff that Joseph Campbell talks about in terms of the stories that we all tell, certainly since Star Wars, have taken a certain shape, and it's because Joseph Campbell was kind of popularizing this idea of the monomyth, the hero with 1,000 faces. And the reason why every Marvel, cinematic universe story takes the same shape is that they're just running you through the playbook of step
every
into
time
inciting incidents, and you step out into the void, and you go down into the deepest depths, and you fight to the death, and somehow through sacrifice you win, and you return to the place where you began, but you're wiser for the journey, and all that kind of stuff. We think that that's obvious, natural, and universal. Actually, you look at the stories of the world, and they're far more like Aesop's fables. Aesop's fables are just like, yeah, there was once this idiot who cried wolf, total jerk. Like, what's he doing? And in the end, he gets eaten. The end. Right?
No, that's Grimm's fairy tales. Well, no, they do both do that. Yeah, Grimm's fairy tales are pretty bad. You read them and you're like, oh wow, I had no idea they were that graphic and that bad. I mean, we've kind of just sanitized them for our modern culture. I remember I was in a class when I was an undergraduate, and there was the prof was getting ready to write a course called Religion and Science Fiction Film. And I remember sitting there going, what? Like, what a weird class. And he's like, Jesus is all over science fiction. And we were like, what? He's like, E.T. He goes, actually, he said to us, he goes, throw out a movie. And somebody goes, E.T. He goes, comes from heaven, does nothing but heal, love people, persecuted, dies, rises again, and goes back up to heaven. It's like, what? I couldn't believe it. It was already there.
So like something like Prometheus is like within the Alien cinematic universe, and very much wanting to get in touch with the more ancient Greek myths, of Prometheus, and to go up into the heavens is to go up into a place where there are malign forces that absolutely want you dead. And so yeah, like we still have remembered how to tell more classical stories, but they always strike us as the photo negative of the gospel, and the ET story in which the alien is a benign force who wants to come and save us, and go through death and resurrection. Those are the stories that resonate with us more. Why? Because of the triumph of Christianity.